Hi, welcome back to Candy's Recovery Journey. I'm Candy. I'm an addict, and on this channel we discuss addiction and all different things surrounding that, and I let you see into my life. So I just got done doing the Just for Today and decided to sit down, have a little talk and everything, but I've been reading my comments, and there was one person in general that mentioned something about coping skills. Well, I will do a dedicated video on coping skills in the near future, but today I wanted to come on and discuss dealing with death and loss during recovery and the 5 stages of grief. So I have my handy dandy notes here. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. As soon as I make space. Because God knows I don't have enough. All right. Diving right into it. Losing a friend or loved one, such as a family member, is painful any time. But the difficulty is compounded when the loss occurs while you're in recovery from addiction, especially during the first weeks and months after treatment ends. That's provided that you've gone to treatment and you're not going the abstinence route. Sometimes people suppress grief for years or decades, coping by numbing themselves with drugs, alcohol, or both. Unacknowledged grief is powerful, but it's never too late to work through a lifetime of intense loss and heartbreak. Going over the 5 stages of grief. This is by Dr. Kubler-Ross, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. This is her 5 stages of grief. So, there is no single way to grieve, first of all, and coming to terms with loss is different for every person. However, the 5 stages of grief, which were formulated by Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in the 1960s, offers a set of emotional stages that most people experience when confronting a major loss. Although the 5 stages were initially intended to help people work through the process of grieving for a loved one, they are helpful for understanding any loss, including saying goodbye to drugs and alcohol. So that's how this is going to tie in. So hang on and you'll see. The stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Well, let's find out. I don't think we're going to answer that question in this, though. Stage 1, denial. This natural defense mechanism occurs when people aren't ready to acknowledge loss or impending death. Denial allows us to process bad news slowly so that the healing process can begin. Stage 2, anger. I think a lot of people stay in this stage longer than any of the 5 stages, but that's just my opinion. I know for me, when I lost my dog, and then my husband's uncle passed away, and then I had another aunt pass away, and then my father-in-law's dog had to be put down, all in the span of a month. I know anger was the stage that I was in the longest. So we're going to discuss anger now. Stage 2 being anger. As denial gradually fades, most people confront feelings of intense anger. You may direct that anger to close friends and family, even though they aren't at fault in any way. If you believe in a higher power, you may feel rage, abandonment, and betrayal. Your anger is genuine, and it's important to acknowledge it. If you attempt to control or suppress the feelings, they can threaten your hard-won inner peace and extend the grieving period. Anger will fade in time, and getting the feelings out will ultimately help you heal. Which takes us to stage 3, which is bargaining. And I know I've done this. I've done it a lot. It's also called making a deal with God, so to speak. This stage is an attempt to regain some sort of normality, and it can take many different forms. For example, you may try to convince yourself that you can control your use of drugs or alcohol like a normal person. Or you may try to make a deal with God or your higher power. Things we say like when we're coming to terms with somebody that we love is getting ready to pass on into the next life. We may say to God, you can take me, spare them and take me. They're a better person than I am. They've done more for people than I ever have or will, Just trying to make a deal with God to spare the person. Stage 4, depression, which is something I do struggle with on an almost daily basis. But when I experienced all of these deaths within a month, I went from anger. There was no bargaining because the people were already gone. So I don't see that I tried to bargain in any way. I might have pleaded with God, please get me through this without using, and I will do more for my recovery than I have been, So I might have done some bargaining to an extent, but I don't think I ultimately stayed in the bargaining stage too long. I think I went from, anger to depression. So depression says, it's common to feel overwhelming sadness when you begin to fully grasp the damage caused by your addiction or the life-changing impact caused by the death of a loved one. You can no longer deny the situation, and it becomes clear that bargaining isn't an option. You may feel depressed throughout the grieving period, or the feelings can hit you like a ton of bricks. This period can be especially difficult if you already struggle with depression. Now, for me, that is the truest words I've ever seen because I am diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder, which means I fit right in the middle of that bipolar spectrum where I don't quite hit into mania, and I don't always hit into the lows of depression, but I'm more along the middle wavelength where, it's called hypomania, where I'm more energetic and more talkative, more outgoing. And then my cycle will drop down into the depressive lows where I won't talk to anyone. I will stay in bed all day. I won't care about getting up and showering. I won't do anything. Nothing at all. And that's what depression looks like for me. So when all of this happened, yes, depression was the cycle that I feel I stayed in the longest. Stage 5 is acceptance. You may still experience sadness, regret, or anger at this final stage of the grieving process, but you are coming to terms with the new reality. As you gain insight, you accept that drugs and alcohol can no longer be part of your life, or you learn how to move on through life without your lost loved one. At this point, things are looking up, but some days will be easier than others. Continue to reach out to friends and family during this period of adjustment. That is very, very important. Do not try to go through the grieving process. I'm sorry, there's a fly here and I can't get rid of it. Do not try to go through the grieving process alone. Please work through it with somebody. I don't care if it's a friend, a family member, your priest, pastor, a counselor. Just please don't try to get through it alone. So let's discuss working your way through grief and loss. First, acknowledge your feelings of sadness, anger, regret, and guilt. There is no way around it. Coping with grief is tough, but if you don't face the painful emotions, they are bound to come out and they can take over your life. 2, don't let anybody tell you how to grieve or that the process should be squeezed into a specified time frame. Although there are some commonalities, your experience is yours alone, and you must work through the process in your own way. So, excuse me, I gotta get a drink of water. All right, let's say you had somebody you love pass on, and it's been 6 months or a year, and you're still struggling with that. And you have friends and family coming up to you saying, aren't you over it already? It's been blah, 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 blah length of time. They're gone. There's nothing you can do about it. Get over it and start living life again. Okay? It is your process to work through in your time frame, and don't let anybody tell you that you're taking too long to do so. Take the time you need to grieve. It is your grieving process, and you need to work through it thoroughly, no matter how long that takes. So, in this article, they also gave us some helpful ideas on working through grief and loss. Number 1, take care of yourself. Grief is exhausting, so be sure to get enough rest. Eat a healthy diet without a lot of carbs, sugar, or junk food. because ultimately those things are going to pack on weight. You're not going to feel good about that, and you're going to find out just how much that slows you down. And as far as rest goes, in order to be the healthiest version of yourself, your body requires a certain amount of rest, and that amount of rest is different for each person. Like me, I might sleep 5 hours a night, sometimes more, sometimes less, but I try to make sure I'm getting 5 hours because I know I can operate on. Am I operating at top performance? No. But am I operating better than not getting any rest? Yes. So make sure you're trying to get the amount of rest that your body needs to recover and continue about. 2. Reach out to friends and family even when you don't feel like it. This is big. Meet a friend for a movie or a cup of coffee. Seek out people who understand. Seek out people who understand. Spending time with folks that don't get it is likely to be counterproductive. Okay. That's big for me because I'm an isolator. That's my number one coping mechanism. That's what I go to. I have a hard time reaching out. I know I tell everybody, reach out, call someone, do this, do that. Do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. But when you're in the grieving process, this is very important. Reach out to family and friends. Somebody who understands what you're going through. Like I said, stay away from those people who look at you and say, don't you think you've grieved long enough? Get over it. Those people aren't going to help you. Okay? If anything, those people are going to hurt you. Stay away from those people. 3. Avoid triggers that may lead to a relapse. Don't spend time with people who make you feel uncomfortable. Avoid places and things that expose you to drugs and alcohol. So, on that, if you find that being around somebody makes you feel not quite right, like you just, I don't know how to say it. If you're spending time with somebody who makes you feel like they're not helping you, but they're in turn co-signing your bullshit is what I'll say, and making you uncomfortable, putting you in a position where you could ultimately relapse because you're in a fragile state of mind. Stay away from those people. If you do call a friend to meet up with them, don't say, well, let's go to the bar and have a cup of coffee, or sure, I'll meet you at so-and-so's party and we'll hang out and blah, blah. Don't do that. Avoid the people, places, and things that could facilitate a relapse. 4. Be aware of special dates, especially during the first couple of years. Anniversaries, birthdays, and holidays are especially difficult when you've given up drugs or alcohol, or if you've lost a loved one. Don't isolate yourself. Plan to do something special with family and friends, or schedule a counseling session. 5. Record your feelings in a journal. Read books that will inspire you and provide greater insight on how other people cope with grief and loss. Gotta flip the page. Alright, number 6. Get moving. If it's difficult to get motivated, hit the gym or ask a friend to take a walk with you. Turn on your favorite music and dance, as dancing will help you express anger or sadness. I say happiness too. So just do something. Basically, do something. And do something to make you feel good. 7. Try to give back to others. By helping others, you will feel better and more positive about life. 8. Pray or meditate daily in a way that works best for you. Now, I'm not going to tell you to sit down and pray and meditate the way I do, because maybe that's not how you do things. Maybe that doesn't work for you. Everybody's different. I know this. What I'm saying is, take some time to pray and meditate, whatever that looks like for you. 9. This is very, very important. Stick to your regular treatment program, even when you don't feel like it. Attend 12-step meetings or other forms of group treatment. Talk to your therapist. Don't hesitate to ask for help if you need it. 10. While it's true that there's no set time frame for grief, it's important to seek treatment if you're having trouble accepting the loss. Most people tend to feel better after 6 to 12 months. Mind you, that says most people, not all people. And that takes us back to your grieving process is your grieving process. Do not hesitate to reach out if your feelings of grief are too much to handle or if they aren't resolving. All right. Relapse isn't inevitable. The pain and sadness of grief feel overwhelming, and it's normal to feel weak and fragile, especially during the early days of recovery. You may be tempted to turn to drugs or alcohol to ease the pain. When urges become difficult to resist, keep in mind that ultimately, relapse only lengthens the grieving process. If you do relapse, it doesn't mean you have failed or that you'll return to your previous lifestyle. Admit you have lapsed and seek help to get back on track as soon as possible, even if it means re-entering treatment. If you belong to a 12-step group, this is a good time to reach out to your sponsor. And to that, I'll add, if you do suffer a relapse or a lapse while going through the grieving process, don't be afraid or ashamed to admit what has happened. Call somebody. If you have a sponsor, call them. If you have a therapist, call them. If you have a substance abuse counselor, call them. A peer recovery coach, a friend in recovery. Just reach out to somebody and let them know what has happened and that you need help. Don't be afraid to say, I messed up and I need help. We're all human. And relapse can happen to the best of us. Knock on wood, it doesn't. But I am smart enough to know that relapse does happen. And during the grieving process is one of the times you are at your most vulnerable. So that was grief and loss and some things to do to cope with that. I am going to put my email in the description. If any of you have anything you would like to add, please feel free to send me an email, leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on this. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. I also ask that you share this out to wherever you can. And please subscribe to my channel and turn your notifications on. Alright, I'll have another video out for you soon. The next topic we're going to discuss is, hang on, I'll give you a preview of it. Why self-care is so important in recovery. And I'm going to start working on coping mechanisms for y'all too. Alright, stay safe. Please, if you go out, wear a mask. I know you hate them. Believe me, I do too, but I do have masks and I do wear them. Stay clean and sober, whatever that looks like for you, whatever way you choose to do that. Love each other and yourselves, and thank you for giving me your time. Bye.